Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. We showed you yesterday the stunning video animation recreating the deadly onset shooting involving Alec Baldwin. Now, the video was created by the attorneys for the victim, Helena Hutchinson's family. It shows in graphic and realistic detail the shooting death of Hutchins and the wounding of Rust director Joel Souza. Now, the video was part of the civil wrongful death lawsuit filed against Baldwin, his production company, the film's assistant director, and the armorer on the film. But this video was created from the point of view of one side of the case, and that, of course, is the plaintiff. So we brought in a special guest to help us figure all this out. Our special guest tonight, forensic criminologist, death investigator, and crime scene reconstructionist, Dr. Laura Pettler. Laura, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, so let's start off, because we were all fascinated by this video. It's extremely well done. I mean, everyone looks like who they're supposed to look like. It can be very influential, I would think, just taking a look at it. So let me start off by asking you, you have a lot of experience in this area. What do you need to create a reenactment or a reconstruction? Let's start with the reenactment, because I think that's what this fits in.
So, Michael, as you mentioned, there are three kinds of crime scene reconstruction, so to speak. There is crime scene reconstruction, which we need the full documentation of all the case material. So we need all the measurements from the scene. We need, in this case, for a shooting, we need internal and external ballistics. We need other elements of the documentation of the scene itself, from the autopsy report, the lab reports, the witness statements, everything you can think of we need for a scientific crime scene reconstruction. To recreate something, whether it's digitally like this video or whether it's actual people, we would need a level of documentation from the case file, but not the whole thing. Sometimes it's just not available. And the third kind, in reenactment, what we need to do this is literally the witness statements. It looks like the measurements to get it into a general margin of error, so that when they set it up, it can play back like a movie or like a show where it's showing in an animated way what they are alleging happened.
Now, you're someone who works, an attorney would come to you, commission you, your company, to do something like this. So my question is, how closely are you working with the lawyers? Are they telling you what they want, or are you doing this independently? Because this is something that perhaps might be used at trial, so it's got to be somewhat reliable.
Right. That's a very important topic that you're bringing up. And so for us here at Laura Pettler and Associates, we are an objective, independent firm. So it's part of our service agreement that the attorneys we work with recognize that our work is free of obstruction, basically, where we're going to build the reconstruction. We're going to render our opinions based on where the evidence leads us and not what they're asking us for, so that it remains as effective, it remains as objective, it remains as reliable and relevant as possible, pursuant to Fry or Daubert or whatever we're dealing with in whichever state we're dealing with it in.
All right, I want to touch on that quickly. Those are the different standards that are used to determine whether these are admissible. Quickly, if you can, I'm sure that there's overlap in the two of them. What are some of the objective criteria that you're careful to meet when you're creating one of these, because you know eventually they might be used in court?
So we always want to use something that can be replicated. So we use the scientific method, which is a 7-step process. So to meet the Fry standard, it has to be able to be tested. Your theory or your apparatus or your technique has to be able to be tested. It has to be peer reviewed. It has to have a calculated error rate. It has to have controls, and it has to be accepted in the scientific community. For Daubert, especially in New Mexico, it's a little different. Their standard of admissibility is that the expert has to be qualified, that the testimony has to be relevant and to assist the trier of fact, and that the testimony is limited in scope to what the expert is qualified to testify in this case, reconstruction. So in all of these cases, we are very, very careful to meet all of those objectives and the legal standard.
Interesting. Now, we've been looking at video here of a reconstruction about 20 years ago, so it's not as nice as the one that we're looking at now in the Baldwin case, but that was very effective, because even with all the things that Robert Durst did, he was acquitted of the murder of Morris Black. Partly, I would imagine, because they were able to show this jury a sense of how his story worked out, the one that he told them on the stand. So these things are very, very influential. I mean, in your experience in doing these over the years, do you find that they're very effective tools for attorneys to use in cases?
Yes, they are very effective. And it really comes down to the crime scene reconstruction, the crime scene recreation, or the crime scene reenactment, where a reenactment is a theatrical production. It's just like getting on stage and acting out a scene, where the reconstruction is based on scientific merit. And then the recreation is kind of a mix of the two. It's part theatrical and part scientific merit. So over the years, I've been doing this 21 years in crime scene reconstruction, specifically with shooting reconstruction and bloodstain reconstruction. And it's been extremely effective throughout my career. Most cases that we work end up in a plea agreement because a lot of the defendants, they don't want to go against the reconstruction.
There it is. And I was going to say, this came out very early. They just filed it. This came out. And I contended that they wanted to put this out because they wanted to promote the talks to get some sort of settlement. Because when you see this reconstruction, boy, it's powerful, it's strong, and it's extremely well done, and done by someone probably just like yourself. Dr. Laura, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Truly appreciate you giving us those insights. Really, really helpful for us. We'll have you again on, again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
All right, you have a great night. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back,